On this episode of DC On Screen, we say goodbye to Phyllis Coates and Keith Giffen, take a look at that Momoa herd horse hockey, catch up with James Gunn on Superman Legacy and Peacemaker, and find out how well My Adventures with Superman is going, all after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome into DC On Screen, the podcast bringing you news and reviews of the DC multiverse on film and television since 2015. I am your host, David C. Robertson. My co-host, Jason Goss, usually adept at scooting around the trappings of domestication, got caught and is unable to join. But I am joined today by a special guest on the show, Frank McGuire. Meanwhile, back on the podcast. Thanks for being here today, bud.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back with you again for another chat. Our Flash episode was a lot of fun, and let's do this.
Yeah, we do have several things to get to today, and I don't know. This is like a lot of the stuff. Like Jason and I have gotten to a point where we mostly agree on stuff, and just talking to you before the show, it seemed like we weren't really jiving on a few things, so I'm interested because we don't have like a ton of things, like
right,
but it's not like a 40 pager or anything, but at the same time, like it could get a little sticky, so we'll see how this goes.
Sure.
First up, really sad news. Phyllis Coates, who was the TV's first Lois Lane, passed away at 96.
Yes, I saw that.
And she was Lois Lane on Adventures of Superman, and before her in the movie serial with Kirk Allen was Noelle Neal, who replaced her when she left Adventures of Superman in season 2. So a lot of people only remember one or the other, but they both existed, and Phyllis sadly has passed away. But and we lost Keith Giffen, who the creator of Raccoon, and Lobo. Yes. Comic creator, or a writer, artist, worked on Legion of Superheroes, and co-created Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle. Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty awesome that he got to see Jaime Reyes on the big screen. He got to see Zolo bring him to life, and I hope that was a moment that he's reflecting on now, and like with a giant smile on his face going, wow, because I know if I was the creator, and honestly, I'm in the process right now of working on my own feature film, and it's not anything like comic book related or anything, but it's definitely something where it matters. Like, the work that you put out into the world, you have intent for it. And sometimes the intent is larger than just entertainment. And I have a feeling that Jaime was probably a part of that. So I hope that Mr. Giffen really, really got what he wanted out of that. And I know he's a good friend of our friend, J.M. DeMatteis, and JM is a great guy. We've interviewed him, and he's just a lovely, lovely guy to talk to. And it seems that JM has been he's been posting about losing a lot of friends lately. Every once in a while I send him a message. I just tell him to kind of keep his head up. So
yeah, of course. JM worked with Keith on Justice League International. Fantastic book.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yes. This was when Batman punched Guy Gardner in the face.
Yep. Yep.
And I love Keith Giffen though, because he passed away of a stroke. He had like the day after he suffered a stroke, he passed away. But it says here in the article, in accordance with his family's wishes, Giffen's Facebook page broke the news with a statement reading, "I told them I was sick. Anything not to go to New York Comic-Con. Thanks. Keith Giffen, 1952 to 2023. Bwah ha 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 ha."
That's on brand. That's on brand for a comic book. Anybody in the comic book business, I think.
All right, so we're going to get into the thing that you specifically wanted to talk about.
Sure.
I was probably not going to talk about it at all. But you know what? It might be interesting. A few days ago, Variety posted this story from Tatiana Siegel.
Yep.
Aquaman 2 flooded with drama. Jason Momoa allegedly drunk on set. Amber Heard scenes cut. Elon Musk's letter to WB, and more.
Yep. Yeah. It seems that the behind the scenes of Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom is potentially more interesting than Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. That's kind of crazy. And honestly, when I read that article, my first takeaway was this, and I'm not trying to be controversial. I think this is very much in common sense, but if you follow Jason Momoa for most of his career, he's always looked like that. Like, he's always been like this bohemian meets biker meets rock star. Like, it's literally been his look since day one.
Well, let's for those who don't know, here's what the article.
Let's get to some detail on that.
We'll get to some detail and kind of pick it apart here.
Yeah.
It says on the same day in mid-September that Warner Brothers dropped the trailer for its $215 million Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, embarrassing documents from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial surfaced on Reddit, creating a new headache for the studio behind the film. Depp fans paid the court fees for the release of documents from Heard's therapist, Dr. Dawn Hughes. The raw notes, scribbled on a legal pad, were part of last year's high-profile trial in which Depp largely prevailed. They describe a hostile Aquaman set where an allegedly intoxicated Jason Momoa dressed like Depp and pushed to have Heard booted from the role of aquatic superhero Mera. Jason said he wanted me fired, the notes say. Jason, drunk, late on set, dressing like Johnny, has all the rings too. A rep for Momoa declined comment, but a DC spokesperson pushed back on Heard's characterization, saying Jason Momoa conducted himself in a professional manner at all times on the set of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Others echoed that sentiment. Jason works his ass off, likes to have a beer once in a while like everyone, but doesn't show up drunk to set, says an insider who was on the London set in 2021, adding that the two stars got along and were seen joking together. And he isn't dressing like Johnny Depp. He is always dressed in that bohemian style. Heard declined comment, but a source close to the actress confirmed that the notes referred to the Aquaman 2 set and reflect a session from December 27th, 2021. Another source close to the actress says her lawyers fought the release of the therapy notes, which had been subpoenaed by Depp's attorney during discovery. All right, so let's pull that apart. I'm not mad at Amber Heard for this because this was a private therapy session.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
And the fact that Depp's attorney subpoenaed for this is indicative. Like, I don't like either person.
Neither do I.
But it is indicative of how much they actually did victimize Amber Heard. Like, he has the money, he has the power, he was out to destroy her. And I don't think that these therapy, because these would have never even come out had Depp's attorneys not subpoenaed the court for it. So, right. But I do agree, like, Jason Momoa has been dressing like this since, like, Stargate Atlantis, dude. Like,
yeah, dude. Like, he literally, like, he was the bohemian, like, rock star biker alien guy, like, since, like, fucking day one, right?
Yeah.
Same with the rings. Let me touch on some of the things that you said, okay? I do, like, listen, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp are both just awful human beings. I question any studio that wants to put them in a position to be lionized in front of children. There was a point in my life where I thought that Amber was the sole abuser. I don't think that anymore. I've heard some compelling evidence about something that happened on a plane or whatever, but I think that both parties are guilty. And I think what you were saying about Depp's legal team being out to victimize her, I don't necessarily think it's just that black and white. I think that they're out to win a trial, especially a defamation trial.
Oh, sure.
That's going to cost them like potentially millions and millions of dollars, right? So they've got to sort of turn over every rock they possibly can so their client doesn't have to pay out their ass. Like, it totally makes sense that they would want to get the deeper insight into these notes. I do think it's a little fucked up that they got publicized. I think that's really messed up. And it's funny enough like that the Depp fans were the ones that paid for this, and it didn't really paint Johnny in the greatest light. And it didn't really add any weight to the Depp fans' case. And I think the Depp fans are, they're out to lunch. Like, they're just blind. They don't want to see the truth. They don't want to see the facts, and that's fine. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew what kind of person Johnny Depp was. So I've seen video of him running around with Hunter S. Thompson and John Cusack. They're assholes.
John Cusack's an asshole?
Oh God,
really?
Yes.
Oh, that makes me sad. I like John Cusack.
It made me sad too. I've liked some of his movies, but he's a total dick.
Oh, that's
absolutely, for various reasons.
That's unfortunate.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think that, I think she felt, as will become evident, I think she felt like she was kind of being gunned for on Aquaman 2, and I think she was, but I think that kind of sparked some paranoia. Maybe Jason did purposefully dress up like Depp at some point, but I mean, God, dude, he's been dressing like Johnny Depp forever. Let's see. It says Momoa wasn't the only Aquaman principal to land in the crosshairs. The therapy session also painted a picture of her feeling unsupported by the film's director, James Wan, and treated like a pariah because of her high-profile legal battle with her ex-husband. Quote, he raised his voice at me. I can't even post about Aquaman. Made it like it was my fault. I said I'm sorry. Says Hughes, notes in reference to Juan. Nobody could take selfies with me on set given blackout. Well, all of that would be super annoying. Because you can't post about Aquaman. Like, on my social media, you couldn't do it because people were like, I'm not going to see that because of her. Okay. Juan declined to comment. DC spokesperson says, James is known for treating members of his cast and crew with the utmost respect and for fostering a positive, collaborative environment on set. The Aquaman films were no exception. See, the one thing that really makes me, after doing the show for so many years, one of the things that gives me pause and makes me think some of this shit might be really true is that DC is so quick to jump on it and go like, this is absolutely not a thing. Like, every time they do that, it was absolutely a thing.
Yeah, you know what? DC does not have the greatest track record ethically. I will agree with that. Like, I'd have to acquiesce on that. Like, DC, they don't have the moral high ground in any situation, I don't think, or WB, or really any of their executives. They've done some pretty shady shit. They've treated their people pretty shadily, but from what I can hear from people in the industry that I know, James Wan is a really nice guy. And as far as Heard's comments about yelling, well, that's all subjective. Like, Heard's idea of being yelled at could be different. Like, he may, Wan just may have been frustrated and been like, hey, you know what? I can't even post on social media because of all this stuff. Or I can't even promote my movie because of all this stuff. Like, just being sarcastic about it, right? Like,
especially if she's giving him shit on the set for something that she doesn't want to do or something,
Absolutely. And from what I can understand, and maybe you'll share my position on this, but when the movie was first announced at DC Fandom, it was set up as a buddy comedy. Like, it was like, it's a buddy comedy with Orm and Arthur. And I immediately went to another 48 hours. Like, that was immediately what I went to. Like, they have to break, or like Orm has to come out of jail, either broken out or, well, he's the king, so he probably didn't have to break anybody out. But like, he had to come out of jail to go after some kind of MacGuffin.
Right. And I think it was set up that way to specifically get rid of her.
Really? I don't know about that.
But yeah, absolutely. Because like, we knew that it does say that she had like more stuff that was cut. And she had a bigger role in the movie initially. But the article says, Heard was nearly fired, sources on both sides tell Variety. Following Aquaman's release in 2018, the studio and Wan decided to drop the actress from the sequel due to her lack of chemistry with Momoa, and sent a letter to her attorney, Carl Austin, informing him of his decision. Former DC Films boss Walter Hamada testified in the defamation trial about the issue of chemistry. Those sources underscored that the move to bounce Heard was unrelated to Depp and took place before he filed suit against the actress in 2019. Likewise, Momoa was not involved in decision-making, but another source pushed back on the lack of chemistry narrative, noting that Heard did a chemistry test with Momoa before landing the role of Mera and beat out 2 other actresses who did a similar chemistry test, including Abby Lee. Now, see, that pushback, though, all that means is that she was slightly better than the other 2 actresses. It doesn't mean she was good. It looks like they were trying to get rid of her before, that they didn't like her before, and it said ultimately the studio never pulled the trigger on firing Heard because her former boyfriend, Elon Musk, had one of his litigators send a scorched earth letter to Warner Brothers threatening to burn the house down if the actress wasn't brought back for a sequel, says a source familiar with the behind-the-scenes battle. Warner Brothers caved and moved forward with Heard. Musk, of course, as everyone else, did not respond to a request for comment. All of this sounds completely on brand for Elon Musk. All of it sounds completely on brand for Warner Brothers caving. It's just everything sounds absolutely true.
And everything
here.
sounds on brand for Amber Heard too. Let's be fair. Some of the things that I've heard about her, the things she's said or done on set, are a little wacky. Apparently, she has a tendency to stick her nose in a book when the cameras aren't rolling, and I've heard she gets fairly upset when somebody tries to interrupt her. So I don't know, man. And at the end of the day, it is all about chemistry. And I don't know how you felt about Amber Heard as Mera, but she wasn't exactly my idea of Mera. And
who was your idea of Mera?
I don't know. I think Mera is a very difficult character. But she's like, the one thing you gotta understand about Hollywood and about the movie business is they don't want you attracting negative press to a project. They don't really like the business side of things. They're not concerned about who's right and who's wrong. They just want to avoid any of the negative PR. The film discourse is enough of a minefield as it is. So you got to do whatever you can to sort of mitigate that situation.
Mm-hmm. So weirdly, this article goes into other things. It tries to. It's interesting. It says sources say the sequel has endured challenges outside of the Heard saga and was testing in the 60s before being recut in the summer of 2022. Mm-hmm. Despite the overhaul, the film continued to test in the 60s, prompting a new cut. The movie is like this echo of regimes. One insider says it's the last remnant of the Snyderverse, and no one really wants to take ownership of it. Reshoots took place right up until this year's WGA strike in May. The on-set source disputes the idea that Aquaman 2 is troubled, noting that the film was on time, under budget, and needed only about a week of reshoots. In fact, none of the stars, this is where it gets like a little weird for me, because like they went from saying sources, and we've been hearing about all the reshoots with Aquaman 2. We've been hearing about the test audiences, how it's kind of ranking low. By the way, Aquaman 1 did the same thing and wound up making $1 billion and testing really good. It's one of those instances where they took all the test screenings and took it to heart and made something that I didn't care about, but apparently everybody else did.
Everybody went to see that octopus playing the drums, bro. That's what it was.
But here's where the article kind of falls apart for me.
Yeah.
It says, in fact, none of the stars cast by Zack Snyder for 2016's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and 2017's Justice League, including Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Ezra Miller, and Momoa, will reprise their roles in the new DC universe in character. Now, here's the thing, though. That has not been confirmed. Ben Affleck has said he's done. We know Henry Cavill was not rehired, though James Gunn mentioned that maybe they could do something in the future, though he wasn't clear about that. Gal Gadot says that she's talked to James Gunn about it, and that's all that we've heard. Like, there have only been unsubstantiated rumors that she's out. Like, we don't know what her status is at all. We have no official word on her, Ezra Miller, or Momoa.
Right. Well, there are new conversations about Ezra Miller definitely being out from Flash. There's a couple of movie pundit type, Twitter accounts and blogs and stuff who have said that they know that Ezra Miller is out. He's gone as the Flash. And there's people already talking about fan casting is also now brewing again. But I think the actress the performer that I want to zero in on is Gadot. Her comments were very specific about the conversation that she had with James Gunn. Like, according to her, Peter Safran and James Gunn told her that she was safe and that they were very excited to make Wonder Woman 3 with her. Like, you are our Wonder Woman, basically. Not verbatim, but apparently that was what her takeaway was that she felt safe in the role and that the role would move forward with her intact, and that would be it. So the point that I raised with you before we got on was, I think that this is going to do a great amount to undermine what James Gunn used to have, which was credibility and integrity. I think it undermines his integrity a little bit. And I don't know if he's just one of these guys that is carrying water for the higher ups and will just say anything he needs to in a tweet or in an interview just to keep things kind of copacetic and to keep the static down. But this is clearly not what was promised to Gal Gadot. And if Gal is out, this essentially, who's the liar, James Gunn or Gal Gadot? Right? That's the question that gets raised now.
Well, not necessarily, because anything Gal Gadot could have said to any outlet might have been misconstrued, might have been taken out of context. Also, things might have changed. Like, they might have had negotiations, had conversations, and it may have fallen through. True. There's also, just like when Gunn was like, yeah, Ben Affleck is involved in doing this, and then some time passed.
Well, that's the other thing.
A few moments later, Ben Affleck's like, oh yeah, we talked about that. And Ben Affleck even went out of his way to be like, no, he's a great guy, but I'm not doing anything with that right now.
That's the other thing. James Gunn paints a picture of Ben Affleck being involved in this new DCU in some sense, right?
But he was at the time.
No, I know, but then the way that Ben Affleck phrases the way in which he says, I will not be involved, it's almost like he's not in agreement with the creative direction of the project.
Yeah, he's clearly not.
Right.
But he was involved at some point when Gunn talked about it. That doesn't mean Gunn a liar. That means that they had a disagreement, and Ben Affleck was like, I want to go make my little indie movies and get Oscars.
True. But what I'm saying is Gunn's statement was more definitive to an affirmative from Ben Affleck. It sounds to me like Ben Affleck never provided an affirmative, never said, hey, yeah, I'm interested, right? Based on the comment that I got back, or the comments that have been posted verbatim or in quote, like quoted from Ben, it doesn't sound like there was even a chance that it was going to happen based on whatever creative vision James Gunn had. That was my takeaway. So again, it's just another thing that kind of undermines James Gunn's credibility and his integrity. And listen, I'm not a James Gunn hater. I want to make that perfectly clear to your audience, to anybody who doesn't know me or know my show. I'm not one of these guys that's like a Zack Snyder fan, just hates James Gunn as a reflex. That's not my thing. I always give people the benefit of the doubt, and I'm a very reasonable, common sense type of person, and I love a lot of James's work, and yeah, I'm just not that guy. So I'm just going off the evidence. From what I can see, Ben's comments sound very, very strong in response to what James Gunn said about his involvement. And it sounded like, hey man, I need to check you because you're kind of like, you're kind of coloring out of the lines here a little bit. It felt very aggressive.
Well, to me, it wasn't a response. It was like a month or so later, and someone asked him about like, "Oh, are you still involved with DC?" And he was like, "No, James is a great guy, but no, not with what they're doing over there." And as far as Gal Gadot, nothing has been confirmed. James Gunn has said like, if I don't tell you it's happening, don't believe it. So I'm not willing at this point to sit here and go, oh yeah, Variety said it, so James Gunn is a sack of shit.
No, I'm not saying sack of shit. I'm like, see, the other thing that I think people don't take into consideration enough is how much of a businessman and a strategist Zaslav is. Like, he doesn't have any skin in this game as far as all this content. Like, he doesn't care about comic book movies. He doesn't care about comic books. It's a business to him.
Yeah.
And all he's doing is trying to make the most money and the most profit. That's it. And I don't see any compunction on his behalf on kind of doing what needs to be done to get the job done, while at the same time minimizing any fallout for WB or for DC.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like I don't, like I would never I would never be shocked in anything that this man did. I don't think he's going to be held to the same standard as James Gunn or Kevin Feige or any of these people. Like, he's a CEO.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things I wanted to point out is like when they shift from the Aquaman 2 is troubled, they have sources, and then in this paragraph where they're saying, in fact, none of the stars cast by Zack Snyder, and they're talking about nobody coming back, none of that has sources. None of that part of it has sources. They do say, sources say Jason Momoa has engaged in talks to play with Lobo, and that's pretty well known at this point. I just want to like make sure everyone is on the same page and realizing like, here's, because you've got to kind of learn to read between the lines on these Variety articles.
Mm-hmm.
And Variety really is just turning into a gossip rag. So when they want to say like, yeah, he's engaged in talks to play Lobo. Yeah, we know that part. We've heard that part. It's gotten pretty damn hinted from Momoa himself and James Gunn. But then you could see the bent of the article here. In a confusing twist, Viola Davis, who played Amanda Waller in both of the recent Suicide Squad movies, will remain as that character in the Gunn Safran DC universe, in next year's Max series Waller, and possibly in the new Superman tentpole. Another outlier is Gunn's Max series Peacemaker, which will be back for a second season with John Cena in the lead. It's not that confusing. And it's also super old. Super old news.
It is old news. But here's the thing too that makes this all very weird. So the characters that are rumored to now be out of the DCU, or the actors playing the characters,
mm-hmm.
have met Peacemaker. A couple of them have, and it's been established that they're in the same universe. Same with Amanda Waller and Ben Affleck. That's literally how the Snyderverse kicked off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I don't know, man. I don't. See, that's another thing about James Gunn that's really frustrating me is his lack of logic as he makes these decisions, because it doesn't ring with any logic to me. It just seems like this is the way he wants it. This is what he wanted to do.
He has his vision, and he's not getting rid of his people from his vision because those are the people he cast. Like, as far as John Cena, and he likes Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. He likes Amanda Waller, and who wouldn't? So I think like those are the things that he set up, and those are the things that he worked on specifically. And I don't think that I understand that people are confused by it and think it's confusing. But it's, we just had a conversation about, them replacing the second live action Lois Lane, Phyllis Coates, with the first live action Lois Lane from a different universe, Noelle Neal, and nobody batted an eye back then.
Yeah, but that's like 60s TV, man. Like
50s,
we're not
sure.
we're not talking the same, we're not even talking the same real estate. Fandom historically has become
awful.
But it used to be an environment where the writers respected the intelligence of the audience and obeyed the rules that were set up in the worlds that they were creating in.
That is not at all true. Go look at Star Trek or Adventures of Superman or Batman.
I'm saying on average.
Nah, not even that. Because they used to just be an old TV show and they could just make up rules and nobody's ever going to watch this again. There were no fans. It was just ratings for the day, and then they were going to get rid of it.
Right.
And I think it's important to note that extended media has always changed the mythos from what was presented in the source material. Sometimes for the good, sometimes not. How Kryptonite didn't come from the comics. It came from the Adventures of Superman radio show. The origins for several Batman villains came directly from Batman the Animated Series, as did the whole last character of Harley Quinn. There's absolutely room for improving upon the mythos through that external media. As Kevin Smith says, adding spokes to the wheel. And as far as respecting the intelligence of the fans, I think Gunn's problem might be that he's respecting the intelligence of the fans too much, because a lot of people are acting like they've never read a comic or heard of a reboot or a soft reboot. And I'm concerned the general audience won't understand what's happening. But I guess we'll see. So we're still not even out of this Variety article. So it says that it starts going into Marvel-Disney relationships, which seems tiresome. But it says, unlike the Marvel-DC relationship in which Marvel controls the creative process and Disney Plus merely releases the content, Max is creatively involved with the DC slate. Gunn and Safran don't enjoy the same autonomy as Marvel's Kevin Feige. A Max source says the collaboration between the DC team and Max executives Sarah Aubrey and Casey Bloys has been seamless, including on the upcoming series The Penguin, which was forced to shut down after the WGA strike began and is expected to resume shooting as soon as the SAG-AFTRA strike ends. Regardless, some on the lot are convinced that another company, most likely Universal, will buy Warner Brothers within 2 years, making recent DC subplots and upheavals feel quaint. That is a really old rumor that Universal was going to buy Warner Brothers. And I don't know if it's true or not. I don't think it matters.
Why not?
Because we will never, Warner Brothers messes up DC enough. If Universal buys it, I don't see it's not like it's going to feel any different. It's just going to be bullshit for the rest of eternity.
I don't know, man. If they,
Do you think Universal will handle the Warner Brothers properties better than Warner Brothers?
I'm saying there may be an executive at Universal that understands what the real problems with DC are, and they may implement solutions to fix those, right? I think that DC needs a steward. They need somebody who, like James Gunn is now, they need somebody like that, but isn't going to try and copy the Marvel stuff. I think that's their problem right now.
Yeah. So in this article, they go into the fact that 2 herd scenes were cut from Aquaman 2, an action sequence that found Mera fighting Black Manta, and a love scene with Momoa, according to individuals familiar with the production. Other evidence of friction is hiding in plain sight. This summer, Momoa unfollowed Herd on Instagram. That doesn't matter.
I'm sorry. I'm really tired of people putting that in articles. Who gives a flying fuck who's following on who on Instagram? That's not an indicator of anything.
I mean, it's an indicator that there's some issue between them. One source says he even blocked Herd from following him. All right. Yeah, whatever. So,
All right.
I'm done with this article. I'm done. I don't care. We'll be right back with some Superman Legacy news, some James Gunn talking about some stuff in the DCU. Welcome back. We have several little rapid fire bits of news here. Superman Legacy. James Gunn confirms that movie will film all over the world. He told a fan it's shooting on sound stages in Atlanta and the rest of the film in places all over the world. And of course, we just found out a couple weeks ago that they were updating Warner Brothers Leavesden, and that was going to be the main hub for the DC films and a lot of Warner Brothers properties. Cloudy Bozo over on Threads asked Gunn, "Do you have your finger on the trigger, waiting to announce more Legacy castings as soon as the strike ends?" James Gunn says, "Yeah,
cool.
I'm down. I want to know all the things. Pay your people, you sons of bitches."
I totally agree with that. Yeah, this shit's gone on way too long.
Here's a Peacemaker Season 2 update. He says he is currently writing Peacemaker Season 2 now that the writer's strike is over. And someone asked, will Season 2, this is Darrell Randall over on Threads, said, will Season 2 of Peacemaker take place in the new DCU continuity, or will it at least be addressed? And Gunn says yes and yes. So clearly he's going to address what's going on, why there's a shift in universe. One of my theories, and apparently a lot of people had this theory as well, was that it was going to have to do with Batmite, which would have been kind of the perfect thing since Batmite was mentioned in Season 1. Batmite is known for being a character who lives in the fifth dimension. He is Batman's biggest fan. He's aware of all the different multiverses. He knows Batman's a comic or a movie or whatever it is. And but no, Gunn says Batmite is not involved in Peacemaker Season 2. Simply, quote, simply because the story for Season 2 has nothing to do with Batmite.
Okay. It is kind of sad. And it's
That's
also
sad.
Raises a lot of questions.
All right, real quick, last piece of news here. My Adventures with Superman. Have you seen this show?
Yes. No. So I totally clocked out of that, and I'll tell you why. After I saw the Sailor Moon suit up, I was done. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No. That does not track for me. I was really excited that that Jack Quaid was voicing him, or voicing Clark. I didn't like... So, as you know, Twitter has a way of picking out a piece of something from a piece of media and blowing it completely out of proportion. And the one thing that got blown out of proportion that I did take interest in was girlfriends getting... Well, it started the conversation again because this happened with Invincible when Invincible's girlfriend got mad at him for keeping his identity a secret. And they did the same thing in Adventures of Superman. So I find that interesting. I don't know why. I wouldn't get mad at anybody for holding back a secret identity. I don't know why anybody would. Like, if it's a secret identity and you don't want to tell somebody because you're trying to protect them and, you know, you don't know how to tell them that you're a superhero, that makes sense to me, you know?
Yeah, it's like being mad at somebody for not coming out as
exactly,
gay.
right? That and like, that was the parallel that was being presented was like, would you be mad at somebody if they they didn't tell you they were gay? Right? Like it's on them, right? It's, you know, it's what affects their life. So yeah.
Well, maybe it depends on the instance. Like if he's having sex with Lois and doesn't tell her, by the way, I'm an alien and I'm like pumping possibly radioactive extraterrestrial jizz into you, and who knows, the kid might kick through your stomach. I think she needs to know what she, you know, just like with Barry. I remember me and my wife were having this conversation. I think me and Jason did too on the show, where we were like, dude, Barry's just having sex with Patty Spivot and he ain't telling her shit. Like, he doesn't know what the hell that lightning did to him. He's got superpowers. He might have radioactive jizz. We don't know.
Spider-Man does, and I don't know if you heard, but it actually got became a storyline in the comics. Like, it actually infected Mary Jane at some point. Like, I don't know if it was the Ultimate Universe or something, but they actually made it a thing. But here's the other thing. I'm sure you've seen this, but the Robot Chicken DC specials, you've seen them?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you remember the skit where Lois got her head blown off and they thought it was just like a straight murder, and like Clark's in the corner and he's like just kind of like, pulling away from everybody, and he looks scared, and they're like, so based on the trajectory of this blood stain, her head was somewhere around here, and it's like right in front of his lazy chair, and she would be on her knees. Yeah, the jizz part. So apparently when he when he busted his nut, he blew out the back of her skull.
Yeah.
In the Robot Chicken skit. Robot Chicken skit. Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, The Adventures with Superman, big hit for Adult Swim.
Cool.
Yeah, ranked number 1 in its time slot among men 18 to 34, and is the number 2 highest rated original freshman series for the network this year among adults 18 to 49 and 18 to 34, and among men 18 to 49 and 18 to 34. So that means the debut season really did a lot of business. It did very well, got a lot of good attention, and of course season 2 is in production. So if you haven't checked it out, give it a shot.
Did you watch it?
No. I'm going to.
Why not?
I just haven't had time, honestly. I've just been so busy. And when it came down to it, I was like, do I do Harley Quinn or My Adventures of Superman?
Right.
Harley Quinn. I'm much more invested. I've already watched like 3 seasons of it.
Yeah, me too.
I do want to watch My Adventures with Superman. I know about the Sailor Moon costume change, and I don't understand why anybody cares.
It's awful, man. I'm sorry. It's just bad. It's cliche, and Superman doesn't direct, like, that's not how his costume works. So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It works differently in every continuity. Like that, you could look at Zack Snyder's Man of Steel and say, like, "Oh, that's bullshit. It's, it's whatever it was, programmable matter from the Kryptonian ship that created a suit." That's not how it works, because it's
actually a physical suit.
It's supposed to be, but all of that shit was made from everything in that ship is made from programmable matter. Like, It basically 3D prints everything.
Sure.
But other Superman fans would say, well, that's bullshit. That's not how his suit works. Ma Kent's supposed to make his suit, like, by hand. Because that's been established in the comics at some point.
Yeah, I don't like that one either, but because, like, it looks like a Halloween costume when you do it like that. But
yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, man, that's all we got today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, man, it was great. It was great. Thanks for having me on. And
where can they find you, man?
They can find us on any podcast platform, Meanwhile Back on the Podcast, and we're on Twitter at Meanwhile_pod, Instagram, Meanwhile_pod. We are just getting back into the swing of things. We took quite a long break due to some life ups and downs, COVID and some career change stuff. And, we're all, this is not our job. One day we would love it for it to be our job, but, we're sort of pre-revenue and we all work day jobs. And so we've kind of had to address those things and make sure that those are all buttoned up. And we're just getting back in the swing of things. And we got a slew of co-hosts. We have like 8 different co-hosts, and they're all great. And we got a good mix of people on our show. And we would love to, for your listeners to check us out. We have DC content from time to time, but I'm not going to make any false promises that you'll hear DC stuff every show. That won't be the case. But we've got some good stuff for sure. We did a flashback into Justice League Mortal. We looked at the entire treatment for that movie and we broke it down. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, come check out the show. And Dave, we got to get you on ours, man. Love to have you on our show.
Absolutely, man.
As I said during the Flash episode, I think you're going to be our go-to for like any sort of breaking DC news, because we just don't have the the time or the bandwidth to stay up on all that stuff, and I know that's your wheelhouse. So I really appreciate you having me on, and we can't wait to get you on our show.
Absolutely, man. As for us, you can drop us a line at dconscreen@gmail.com if you want to become one of our patrons. patreon.com/dconscreen. That was a total brain fart. Jason and I'll be back at some point soon. Probably next week, or, well, I'll have to check my calendar, but it'll be soon.
There you go. There you go.
All right, guys.
Peace out, everybody.
Peace out, and until next time, keep some DC on your screen. Hey, thanks for listening to DC On Screen. Our theme song is by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford of Galactic Engineers. The incidental music is by Michael Shackelford and Kevin MacLeod. You can rate the show on Spotify or rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Doing that really helps push our show to new listeners, so your help would be much appreciated. You can also contact the show at DC On Screen on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or email us at dconscreen@gmail.com. To become a patron and get ad-free episodes and exclusive content, go to patreon.com/DCOnScreen. Your reviews and feedback may end up on a future episode of DC On Screen. DC On Screen is a production of Maladjusted.tv in association with Stranded Panda. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever damn platform you use.